When are we gonna start all the Austin and stuff? Is that like right after the student movie? We're gonna do that?
I think we have to have 2 weeks before y'all.
So I don't think it's anything.
You won't start with me again until.
Your body will appreciate it.
They'll just send us.
That's unloaded.
You'll get a 6-week program.
That was unloaded. All right, you guys ready? Okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce Coach Zach Snell. Everybody give him a round of applause. Okay, so you will have a group or a guest speaker presentation. It's in your weekly module. I gotta go. I'm learning how to use a portable metabolic cart. So do you want me to come back?
Sure.
Shut off the Zoom,
That's fine.
whatever. Okay, keep him for the whole time. Ask him lots of questions. All right, thanks, Zach. I'll be back.
None of you guys leave early. Either one. All right, so I said, Coach Snell, Coach Zach, I don't really matter. Director of Strength and Conditioning here, it says I got a bachelor's, master's, and then a certification, which I'll talk about as the presentation goes on. The background that you wanted me to put up, I went to high school in Southern California. Before that, I was kind of all over the world. Dad was Air Force, which kind of helps with this whole transition of this career since I move around quite a bit. Went to West Ranch High School. I did not put it in here. Originally signed with University of Arizona, then due to injury, scholarship went away. Went down to Division III to play closer to family. All of my family lives up here in Wisconsin and Minnesota, so I went to Wisconsin Stout. Once I graduated from Stout, went to University of Louisville, worked their football program for a year. Then I got my master's in coaching and sport administration at Angelo State University down in San Angelo, Texas. After that, went to University of Arizona again, but this time as a coach, worked there for 5 months with 5 teams. I was the head of swim and dive. I assisted with baseball, basketball. I was the head of cheerleading for strength and conditioning, which was super fun. After that, I went to McMurray as my first head position. I was the head strength and conditioning coach for all 21 teams at McMurray University in Abilene. After that, moved on to a Division II in St. Mary's down in San Antonio, in the heart of San Antonio, where again, worked with every team except baseball. And then I came here in January and I work with most sports. I don't work with wrestling, volleyball, track and field. And then this year, thanks to having Coach Mitch, my GA, he's got baseball, swim and dive, and cross country. And I run football, soccer, golf, both basketballs, wheelchair basketball, cheerleading. I think that's it. Just said that. Okay, yeah, also, on top of working with all these teams, I'll do all the budgeting for the weight room. So most of you athletes know that we got all new racks in this year. Coach Mitch and I are doing fundraising to add even more to the weight room itself with attachments. And I'm also, whoa, didn't know we did that. Yeah. I'm also progressing my education, going into a PhD program in sports psychology with a graduate study certification in sports psychology as well. So part of the guest speaker talk that you wanted me to talk about with this class specifically in my role and the job that I have was preparation. So got a bachelor's in science. It was health and fitness at Stout at the time. Now it's exercise science, and I can classify it as exercise science as I took those courses as well. But I did not start in this. So if anybody in here specifically is kind of bouncing around ideas, I had 7 majors when I was an undergrad student, none of which were this until the very last one. I was started in apparel design, then I was in art, Then I was art history, graphic design, interior design and architecture together. And then, as we'll talk about later with some of my mental health stuff, took me to this one. Because with these glasses, I can look at screens and everything else before I could not so well. So ended on this, took me about 1.5 years to actually finish the program itself. And better for it now, I guess, I would say. It'll lead into the why down the road. Master's of Coaching and Sport Administration. And if anybody thinks that they won't go back to school, don't count it out just yet. I was, one fun fact you can put down in your little note thing. Freshman year of college, I was kicked out of school for grades. Didn't want to be where I was at, got kicked out, came back, and I got a 3.9 from then on out. And I almost dropped out once football was done, because that's all I wanted to do. Finished the degree. About 1.5 years later, I went and got my master's in coaching and sport administration. Like I said, now I'm progressing into a PhD to become a doctor in sports psychology. Did that wrong. Got the CSCS degree, not the CSCA. And I'm working on the CSCCA as well. Got the certified strength and conditioning specialist certification, which is what you need to be in my position. I got the USA weightlifting performance coach, so I can train Olympic weightlifting athletes, which I've done in the past. I have a youth athlete who was a 3-time national champion in Olympic weightlifting as a youth up until the age of 14, and then she transitioned to powerlifting. And then part of the preparation internship. So I was an intern at Louisville working with some of the athletes that are now professional athletes in the league and playing at a high level. I ran their sports science department, so I ran all the catapult, the data tracking, knowing which players to back down, which not to. Worked with a Heisman Trophy winner, 2 Olympic medalists, some of the highest paid athletes in National Football League now today. Volunteerships. The Arizona position technically was a volunteership because it was during COVID. So they laid off 3 strength coaches and I said I would work for free. So I ran 5 teams for free doing the exact same thing that I'm doing now. Strictly because I wanted to be at Arizona and keep working during COVID, and it allowed me to do that. And then experience, I played college football. I played baseball in high school at a high level, track at a high level, one of which I was an All-American. The second one, I was a state finalist in the 100 and the 200. And then I got to meet a lot of people through that. Worked with the Michael Johnson camp down in Florida and their secondary camp in California. Worked with the same pitching coach that some of the MLB guys used for still today, Trevor Bauer being one of them. And all those experiences I can kind of lend to the stuff that I do now. So everything that I've used in the past from all those different schools, I use with all the teams here today that I work with. What to expect in this kind of position, the job that I have now. Continue learning with the certification that I have to do what's called continued education units to be able to keep my certification valid as I go through. Once I pass that test doesn't mean I have it for life. I have to do a certain amount of units every 2 years, and the units are pretty small. So if I go to a really big conference, that might be 1 unit and I have to get 8. And there's some exams that we can take and they only count as 0.2. So there's a lot of continued education that goes on with this so that you stay valid and up to date with everything that's going on. So you're not training kids who are true how old are you?
90.
Training 19-year-olds as if it's still 1970 doing the old Russian styles, because they're not going to work. You're probably, good job, you're probably not on roids or anything, so the training that they did won't work today as well as it would have back then, being able to repair your body with something else. Yeah, I'm positive. Long hours. If anybody's thinking about this job, be prepared to work pretty long hours. I got here at about what time this morning? 6:30, and that was a late day. 6:30 this morning, and I'll be here until about 6 p.m. tonight. Yesterday I got here about 5 in the morning, and I was here about 7. So about 14-hour days, anywhere between 12 and 14 are the average. Sometimes they'll go longer, especially if you're at Division One. Division One, you might be there anywhere between 14 and 18 hours. And then you'll go home, decompress, sleep, get back up, and do the same thing. Struggling in personal life may happen. You may lose friends just because you have long hours. You may not get to go out and do whatever else. If somebody's going to an event, you might not get to go. If I'm with football on an away game, I might not get to stay and do other stuff on weekends or go to a soccer match or something like that. That may go on. You have to learn how to deal with stress and time management. Stress is, for me, is relatively easy. I don't really stress about that much. I've learned to decompress quite a bit, but it took quite a bit of time. And then time management is probably the biggest thing. As I said, you've got really long days, but if you look at the schedule that's on the weight room door, we've got teams sometimes back to back, some are crossing over. I might have individuals that can't make lift. So you have to be able to adjust your time to be able to fit everybody else's time, team wise and player wise. And also give your time to make it valuable so that you can not burn out. I burned out at McMurray pretty quickly. I was there 18 hours a day, every day except Sunday, and I was the only one working. It was me by myself with 21 teams, so it was quite a bit of a struggle, and I started to burn out. I would lift there, I coached there, I ran some of the classes there, so I was there the entire 18 hours with no time. St. Mary's, I made myself have a little more time management. I went to work, I lifted somewhere else. I went to a CrossFit gym and lifted there instead. That way I could kind of decompress my body away from the work so it wasn't everything at that one place. Learn how to be adaptable and have variety. Don't have, if you're gonna be this kind of coach, don't have football doing the same thing as baseball, is the same thing as soccer. They're all different sports. Don't make one team do the exact same thing. You can have a lot of the same exercises, you can do some of the same modalities, but football player might need to compress their spine when they're catching a clean. Soccer won't necessarily have to do that. Baseball won't have to have that same kind of rotation in the elbow as a clean. So there's a lot of different variables that you have to kind of account for and then adapt to them as you go. And like today, my Thursday now with the second week schedule is relatively easy. My last team, or the development group, ends at 7:30, and I don't have a team till noon, so I can find time to lift in there. Today, not so much. I had a meeting with the soccer coach, then I had this, then I'll have either football or soccer outside, then I'll have basketball in the afternoon. So it all kind of switched around. Some of those were not on the schedule before the day started. So you have to learn to adapt to whatever is kind of thrown at you as you go through. Now, the good parts of this job, you get a lot of fulfillment from your athletes. You get to see athletes who might think that they can't lift a certain weight and they finally hit that weight first time in their life. I had that at McMurray for the one that is easily coming to the top of my head. I had a kid who was trying to do a 250 clean, had never gotten over 245 in his life, and he had tried it hundreds of times. He tried it 15 times in that max out day by itself. He sat there for almost an hour doing cleans because he didn't want to leave. When he finally did it, he broke down, his team cheered with him. You could see like the joy and like some tearful joys come out, and he had never done it before and he really wanted to do it. And he got it, and I can remember that off the top of my head. I also filmed it, so I remember it a little bit easier too. When a team wins, yeah, that's fulfilling to me, but I don't really have anything to do with that. I do maybe on the mental side, I do on the training side if we get faster, get stronger, whatever else. But that's more minor on my part, just because I'm more of a behind the scenes coach. Joy and pride kind of goes together. And then what to expect, find your purpose and own your purpose. Like, I understand that I am a behind the scenes coach. Football team specifically knows I am not going to be a rah-rah coach. That is not my overall purpose. My purpose is to make you guys better and make it so that you can motivate yourself. And if you want to be a rah-rah person, by all means, I have no issue with that. But my purpose is to make every athlete better, not to make myself look any kind of way. So I know my purpose, and I found my purpose pretty quickly. we'll go back to all this stuff later, I'm sure. Question that Chris asked me, going back, if I could go back and change anything, would I do anything differently? Absolutely, I'd be lying to you if I said I wouldn't. I would go back and change hundreds of things. One of which could be my major. I mean, if I didn't take so many hits to the head, probably would have stayed in graphic design and architecture. But again, I had to adapt to what I was handed, so I changed what I did. I would learn more and learn more efficiently. I was not good learning because I didn't really care. I'll be honest, I didn't care at all. When I was in undergrad, I knew I was really smart and I could just kind of skate by with what I was doing. And that was a very false thing in my mind to do. Because now I like learning. It's a lot more beneficial. And my assistant and I, Mitch, have talked about it. Neither one of us really cared to read. Now that we're outside of it, I read a lot. I mean, I have a whole library in my house that I bought, and I read often. I read research journals, I read fiction, nonfiction, everything else. I would appreciate the process more, kind of the same thing. I would appreciate everything that was handed to me. Right away, I didn't. We got to live when I was a freshman, hated it. I had a torn shoulder, couldn't really pick my arm up, so I didn't really go as much. And I had a lot of late makeup workouts that I had to do just because I thought I wasn't strong enough. I didn't trust the coaches that I had to get me stronger, to get me faster right away. Now going into my job, find athletes, why sooner, or trying to find why everybody is here, why they want to play football, why they want to play baseball, why they want to play soccer, why they want to do what they do, and really understand them more. I believe myself to be a player's coach. Not gonna really scream at you that much unless you do something overly wrong continuously. But I am gonna let you be you in the weight room. I am gonna let you be you on the field. I want you to be here for your reason, not for my reason. I can't tell an athlete, hey, you need to lift to be stronger for me for the team. I don't care. You need to be stronger for you. I want you to get stronger. I want you to get faster. But you have to want it more than anything else. So me finding your why comes and goes as it is, but trying to find a why for athletes a little bit sooner. When I was younger, I was really bad at this second one. I don't want to touch the screen again because it's going to do something. Connecting more and often. I did the exact opposite of what I just said. I went into a weight room and I said, hey, this is what we're doing. Do the workout, get out. I didn't really joke around. I didn't really connect with anybody. I didn't let them know who I was just being a coach. Now, as some of you heard me mess around with these guys, they know that they can back talk me and I'll back talk them. I'm gonna give them, the camera's on, I'm gonna give them a bunch of crap, they're gonna give me a bunch of crap back. And that's fine, because I know, they know how I am, and they know that I'm gonna be real with them on a dime. I might joke around with them, and then I might get on them really quickly. And that's just kind of how I am. I'm not really gonna be fake, so I'm gonna be myself, except for when I'm on camera. And then it's a little bit more authentic. That way people know when I'm being real, when I'm not. Or when I'm mad and when I'm not. When I'm trying to get them serious, when I'm not. I'll let you guys have a good time. And now I connect a little bit more. I already said this last part. I would have stayed with one of my old majors and combined them. And I'll tell you why I didn't here now. I'll tell you why now. In this job, like I said, you want to find your why. Go into the profession that with a purpose. So I went into this because I was injured quite a bit. This is not an injury, so don't look at my arm. I got injured quite a bit. I mean, I played football from when I was 6 until I was 24. Went a little bit further on with some combine stuff, and then I was told I can't play anymore. Kelsey knows some of mine. I went into this with injuries. I had 19 concussions through football from the age, kind of from middle school is when I think I got my first one, up until my senior year, I got my last one. And second to last one, I got one after that, but that was playing intramural football. But I got a lot of them. That's what led to me having to switch majors. I can't look at a screen for more than 20 minutes without these glasses on or some yellow glasses. Otherwise I'll get massive headaches, sometimes I'll get a nosebleed. I'll start to have some concussion-like symptoms, I'll have a little bit of loss of memory, here and there, a lot of short-term stuff. But then that headache will last for a couple days. I broke my neck twice, so that meant I couldn't really do any kind of true physical stuff when it went to construction or architecture, having to move heavier weights around with my upper body as much until I was able to stabilize it. Tore my shoulder. I have 4 metal brackets to the back of my arm. I tore my knee. I broke 3 ribs, broke my jaw. All of this was pretty much football. A lot of the other stuff though, soft tissue, my shoulder could have been prevented. My neck could have been prevented. Concussions maybe could have been prevented. My neck was a little bit stronger, but they all could have been prevented in the weight room. I didn't have a strength coach, a true strength coach, ever. I had a D-line coach when I was in high school. I had a D-line coach the first 2 years in college. I had a linebacker coach my 3rd year. I had a D-line coach and then a specialist that has their own company come in and do ours at the end of my senior year, but by then I had already broken my neck twice. So it was due to a weak spine from old school ways of training. Coach is telling me to look up when I was squatting and it wore down my spine and I took the wrong hip, broke my C7 vertebrae my freshman year, and then my 5th year of college broke it again, virtually the same way. But then the concussions made me switch. I lost my memory for 2.5 months on my last concussion when I was in college. I had some micro blackouts and they told me that I couldn't be at a screen. So after my memory loss one, the next day went into the admissions and I dropped out of graphic design. That would have been November. Yeah, is usually when the end of the year is for football. Dropped out halfway through the semester. Tried to get into any class that was still open for an 8-week in health and fitness. That way I didn't have to look at the screen so long. Most of my classes were either outdoors. I did biomechanics. We went into our the RA. We did a lot of videotaping, how a body moves, how to calculate it, everything else like that. I barely had to sit in front of a screen anymore. I accepted kind of who I was for a long time with that concussion stuff. I didn't know who I was, because like I said, I was in apparel to start. I was the opposite end of the spectrum as an athlete. I was in a class of 200 with 3 guys, and I wanted to make Nike stuff, I wanted to make Adidas stuff. Then I transitioned away from that. I'm a really good artist, went into art, and then I decided, you know what, I gotta accept that I'm no longer that. I'm pretty much in this athlete world now, which I was being an athlete, but now I gotta be a coach and accepted that. And being who I am kind of just alluded to that. I'm not really gonna sugarcoat anything. I'm gonna be how I am. I'm not gonna come in here dressed in a suit and tie, because you will almost never see me in a suit and tie unless we're at like a banquet thing. So I'm not gonna do that. This is how I work, which is probably a benefit of my job. Come in shorts and a short sleeve t-shirt all the time. Learn more often, and then never settle. This is one that some of my teams now are kind of learning. I'm not gonna give up and just kind of settle for where we are, whether that's the record that we have, the stuff that we have. I'm not gonna settle with mediocrity or being at the bottom. The racks that we had before, didn't want to settle with them. I've been here 10 months now, and we already have new racks. I'm gonna build us new stuff to be able to train more. Never settle with anything that you do. This will be my motivational part of this talk. Never settle with anything. I settled once and I hated my life. I settled being in a university that was paying me, and it was the first job that I was getting paid for, and I settled staying there for too long. And I decided to leave. Then when somebody offered me a new job and I was told that I wasn't gonna be promoted salary wise or anything, I said I'm not gonna settle for this, and I moved home. My sister lives about an hour and a half away. Came back to Minnesota, and I'll be here for quite a while. I'm not settled, don't worry. And then you gotta find your fit. Like I just said with that, McMurray was no longer my fit. The coaches and I didn't really see eye to eye with what we were doing, so I left. Same thing with St. Mary's, wasn't really working out as well, and decided to leave. Come here, and I'll be here for as long as everything works out. I think that might be it. Any questions? Yep. Let's see if any, let's try to ask four, so that way we can keep Chris, because I'm on camera. Any questions from anything that I kind of rambled off there? Yeah, what do you got?
So when you were kicked out of school your freshman year,
So how's that coming?
what was that like process like? Cause you said you got kicked out and you came back. Like,
Yeah,
how that was.
so, like I said, right away, I signed with Arizona, was there for the spring, lost scholarship with injury, went to Stout, and I was like, well, I went from Division I to a Division III. Hated life, thought I was too good for it, and some of the classes were not my fault, and I put that in the appeal letter, and I put the ones that were my fault. When I went to Stout, I had to take a placement test, tested out of math, which meant I didn't have to take math. And I was put in a math class anyways. And I'll be honest, I didn't go. I'll be honest with you. I went for the exams. I got 97 or above on all the exams because I knew math. So that's what it was. Got an F, rightfully so, because I didn't go. I had a situation, I guess you would say, with history. We sat in a class just like this. I sat virtually in the third row. Kid next to me got kicked out of class. But she thought he was me. So she dropped my name off the roster. So I appealed it. Somehow I got back in, but then she thought I was still him. So I got an F in the class. Even though I turned everything in, I got a 0 and everything. She thought he wasn't showing up, so I got an F. So we're sitting at 2 Fs out of 4 classes. My speech class, so I said right away, my dad was Air Force. I was a military kid up until 2003. I'm older than you guys, so I was a military kid up until 2003. And my speech professor was anti-military, anti-government. I did all of my speeches except one on military. Except one, and I did on concussions. I got an A on the one on concussions, and I got a D on the ones that had to do with anything with military veterans. I got a D in that. And then the third class, English, I had a B+ going to the final, and we had to put 6 citations on our last paper. I turned in a rough draft that had 5, and he emailed me back saying that you only have 5. 30 seconds later, I sent him my final draft, and it had 6 with an additional 2 pages on it. And he said I updated it right then, and he gave me an F on it. So I got a D in class. So I went from 2 Bs, an F, and a C to 2 Fs and a D. I got kicked out with a 0.5 GPA, and I wasn't even on probation. I was just kicked out of school. I didn't even know I was kicked out of school until my coach called me that they had a team meeting that they told the team that I was kicked out. So I went to a junior college. I took 18 credits instead of 12. I got 3.9. Went back to prove a point. That probably should have been in my PowerPoint of don't go back. But I went back, proved the point. I got 3.8 from then on out. I took 16 credits every semester. Graduated with enough credits to add another 2 majors to my docket if I took 2 more classes. I mean, that was kind of the process. Was I got kicked out, applied to get back in, or appealed to get back in, got back in because I had 3.8 at a JUCO, and came back, and like I said, I was at a 3.8 or above. I think I finished with a 2.87 because I never really recovered that well from a 0.5. Kind of hard to recover from a 0.5. It's hard to get a 0.5 too. So, any other questions? Somebody gotta have another one. So,
Oh, what was like your JUCO experience? Like, did you hate it, or were you just driven to like just prove someone wrong?
so I went to, it's called College of the Canyons at the time, and it's where I went to high school. It's right down the street. JUCO had 27,000 people in it. It's virtually Division I. And the kids who were there, I did not go for football. I got surgery. Like I said, I put the brackets in the back of my arm, so I was just there for school. And it was good. I mean, I understood what I did wrong when I went to college right away. I decided to go into hotel tours and management, which is why I didn't list that up there. It put me in the architecture and interior design world. And I enjoyed my classes. When I was in generals, I was bored. I was doing the same stuff I was doing in high school, so I was bored. I didn't want to be there, which is part of the reason that I kind of failed out. But like I said, I took 18 credits. 2 classes were 5 hours long. And they were only colors. Like one of my classes was applied color for designers. I learned over 2 million colors. And that's all we did, was just sit there and learn colors the whole time. And what colors went together, what colors didn't, and everything else. And it was 5 hours, 2 days a week. But I went back with a purpose to know that I was gonna keep learning, that I didn't want to just drop out of school and be that kid that dropped out of school. But yeah, I mean, the JUCO itself, like I said, it was, at the time, was the top JUCO in the country. They had won 4 national championships. I knew the coaches there. Their strength and conditioning coach is one of the most well-known strength coaches in the world. His program is one of the most revered programs. So I got to train underneath him, even though I wasn't on the football team. I asked him if I could live. Came back stronger than I was going to college in the first place. And I kept doing his program in my off season when they didn't give us a program. That led me into playing all 4 years in college, plus my 5th year of injury. And it got me to the point where I was able to do 2 NFL combines with some teams and get some tryouts until they said I wasn't mentally fit enough to do it. So, and guarding caps weren't a thing then, so I couldn't wear one of those. And they were afraid if I got another hit, I'd be an early CT candidate. So, but it was good. I mean, I didn't really have an issue with JUCO. It generally got me to where I was. JUCOs now are different because you can virtually transfer anywhere, so you don't have to go to a JUCO. So it's a different world now than it was back then. Yeah. Anything else? Somebody's got another question. Yeah.
How could you keep going back to football after you kept getting hurt?
And the easiest way of saying this is I lied. I said that I didn't have symptoms when I did. And the thing was, football was my identity. So the whole be who you are thing, or accept who you are. Even though I wanted to be an art major, even though I wanted to do all this stuff, football was my sole identity when I was growing up. I trained for it. I paid private trainers for it. I went to workouts before high school, like classes. I would get up at 5. I would go do a private training. I went to class early so that I could get out of school earlier. I took a 7 a.m. class, so that way my junior and senior year of high school, I was done at 10 in the morning. That my classes were done in those first 3 hours. And then I went to another private session. I went to a practice. I went to another private session, and I made football my identity. And I felt like if I didn't have football, I didn't know who I was or what I was, even with art. So I lied. And if my head hurt, I said it didn't. I would go into games. I know for a fact I got 2 concussions in the same game, twice. One of which was the one that I lost my memory. So I've talked to Kelsey about this before. I got hit when I was a junior in college. Got up instantly, every light was brighter than the sun, and I went to the sideline. That night, it felt like I was getting hit with a baseball bat, left and right. Woke up the next morning, had no clue what happened the day before. Then I woke up the day after that, had no clue what I did the day before. So every day, I would write, like today, I would write down that I talked to the soccer coach, I bought some concert tickets that I wanted, I came and talked to this class, I trained this team, and then tomorrow I would read it. And I'll write down the next day, and I'll read that the next day. So if anybody's seen the movie 51st Dates, it's virtually the same thing. I didn't remember the day before for 2.5 months. And that was because I lied about my symptoms, and I put myself back into the game. I got hit again, and I got another concussion. The next year, same thing. I probably still had some residual because I've already had a lot. And I got hit, I would have micro blackouts. I would hit the ground. If I was at the bottom of the pile, it kind of lucked out, you would never know. I would wake up a couple seconds later, get up, know that I got one, and I'll go play the game. And looking back on it, probably wasn't the smartest move because I'm still suffering it from today. Like right now, I'm not blind. I don't need these glasses at all. But these lights irritate me. This screen irritates me. Some of the LED blue light, or the bluer hue lights will bother my eyes. Like my phone is on red all the time. My laptops are on red. My TV at home has a red tint to it. Everything that has a screen has a red tint to it now for me. If I'm walking around a building that has newer lights, and you can kind of tell between a little bit more orange and blue lights, I'll either have these glasses on or I'll have some orange lens glasses on because it'll affect my head all the way through the day. If the weather changes, same thing. I'll feel the pressure in my head because I'll feel the pressure from going from really hot to really cold, like we kind of did recently. And I mean, it kind of was what it was. I just lied about it and put myself back in. Plain and simple. There's no easy way to say it because I told them that I was fine and I went back in even if I wasn't. Because I didn't know what I was going to do if they were going to pull me from football. So, yeah.
How was like your mental state like during those times? So like that 2.5 months that you didn't have any memory, how was like your mental state?
Terrible. For the first about week and a half. Right away because I didn't know what was going on. And part of it was because I was a junior. So I knew I still had my senior year to play. And I was afraid if I went and told my trainers that I had this major or concussion that they wouldn't let me play my senior year. So they didn't even know I had this because it was the last game of the year. So I didn't really have to feel like I had to go and tell them. And I probably should have because they might have dialed me back from some things because we started lifting. The rules at Division III aren't the same. So right after season, we had a week off and then we could go back and lift. And I was still kind of in the symptoms, went back in. We had Hell Week right away, which meant high intensity stuff, which meant my symptoms got later and later and later as they went on. But right away, I didn't know what to do. I knew I couldn't tell them. I went to a psychologist or a counselor on campus to talk to them instead of our coaches and stuff. And then I started to learn to accept it. And when I finally remembered the day before, I went in and told my trainers, like, hey, I remember yesterday, but I forgot that I had never told them that I had a concussion and that I was forgetting memory and everything else. So it was pretty bad. There were times where I didn't really know who I was or what I was. I knew I played football. I knew that like what my classes were, but I didn't know, I guess, personally who I was. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. I didn't know why I was still in school. I didn't know why I cared about football anymore. There were times where I didn't care about football. And like I said previously, football was my life, my identity. But it changed so much in my mind that I didn't know what I was even doing anymore with what I was doing. Then I learned to accept how to kind of progress through everything. I started doing a bunch of research on my own on concussion, and that's when I learned about yellow and orange light glasses. So I went out and bought one of those like safety ones, the really big, like wide ones, and looked stupid, and I had them. And I didn't care what I looked like, and I wore them. And my eyes didn't hurt as much, so that meant my head didn't hurt as much. So I wore them everywhere, and I didn't care if people made fun of me or not. Made it so that my head didn't hurt as much, and then I was able to keep myself a little bit healthier. I told coaches, hey, I'm not coming to weights. My head's killing me, and I stopped going to weights for a little bit. They gave me alternatives to do. I went to the pool. I kept doing workouts under their supervision, and then I got healthier from it as I went on. So now, when I have some of these residual ones, I know how to deal with them because I've had so many. So I'm able to learn from it and know, like now with my glasses, put them on if there's going to be screens in here or whatnot. And if I start to have a headache, I know that I have to put decompression on my head. I'll put my glasses on, I'll put an ice pack on, I'll drink a little bit more water, I'll lay down a certain way so that my head will decompress. About an hour or so, I'll feel fine. Next day I'll wake up perfectly fine, like nothing ever happened. So, yeah. Anything else? I don't wanna keep you guys here super long, so Jason.
Do they make contacts, like hourly glass, like
Yeah, they do. They'll make yellow and orange tint glasses. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to wear them, just because some of the orange and yellow light will make some lights brighter. Sometimes they won't, it depends on which ones they are. Nike actually used to make some bright red ones, and now they disband them because now they're legal in sport. Red ones alter the state of the eye so that it makes everything a lot more high definition. They banned them really quickly in baseball and football, especially with receivers and everything, because it makes it a lot more high def when something's coming in. So if a ball's coming in on a pitch, you're able to see that contrast more. Football, if you're getting thrown a ball, you can see the spiral of a ball a lot more clear. You can see the ball a lot more clear. But they still do make orange, yellow ones for people who need them. For people who can't wear glasses necessarily, they do make contacts for them as well. I just don't like putting contacts in my eye, so I'm fine wearing glasses at this point. Anything else?
Who's the
No,
best athlete you've ever been around?
best athlete I've ever been around? What sport?
Football.
Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson. Yeah, Lamar Jackson for sure. Jair Alexander is probably second. He plays for the Packers. At one time, he was the second, or he was the highest paid DB in history. He was on that same team. Mekhi Becton was a lineman on that team. And I should have put that in the PowerPoint because you guys would have got a kick out of that. Mekhi Becton was a 17-year-old when I went to the University of Louisville. I was 26. I have a picture with him. He is taller than this teleprompter. He was a 6'9" freshman or 6'8" freshman, 373 pounds. He has the fastest recorded time in the combine history for a lineman. He was a 6th pick overall in the draft, and he's still as big, if not bigger than he was then. But then I trained Delaney Snell. She was the first medalist in swimming or in diving history. No, in diving in the last 33 years for Team USA. She got silver in the last Olympics. I trained her when she was at Arizona. I've worked with a lot of guys that are in the NBA now from Arizona. A couple guys who are in the MLB from Arizona. One kid was the #1 overall pick in the MLB draft, and I think to the White Sox a couple years ago, and then decided not to, and went to Arizona instead, and lit it up to Arizona since then. But no, Lamar's probably #1 because he was a Heisman, almost a second Heisman, and then Jair probably after that. Anything else? Okay, now I'll keep you guys here longer. I think you guys can leave from here, right? Yeah, all right, you guys can leave. I'll set everything down. And if you have any more questions, you guys.
See you in an hour.
Maybe.
And I'll see Coach Mitch.
No, because you gotta make it.
And I'll see Coach Under.
There you go.
Hey, Drew.
Yeah.
You live? I guess. Oh, wait, so, Coach, you like, I'm like, there's something going.
No, I don't have to. I probably should, but I don't have to.
I'll just. Yep.
Didn't.
Wait, do we have speed limitations?
I don't know, I'm gonna figure that out now. I asked him, he said, I'm cool with that, thanks, could you go to 4? We're supposed to have rain around 3 to 3:30, but I've got to basketball.
You're shield though.
Are we supposed to have rain?
Yeah.
It's like Maria.
You're kidding me, no.
Bro, you're turning into soccer girls.
Huh?
You're turning into soccer girls. All they say is
I thought it
bro.
was like 1 through 4 here.
Yeah, so do I. You guys don't see me as much.